Well, we can get started if you guys want to. I don't know if anybody else is going to come, but they can join in. So yeah, thank you for coming. I think we'll just do, like we usually do, a round. Everybody can just say briefly what they thought of this story, their kind of initial reactions and everything. Let's see, Carlos, do you want to start?
This is the first time I read anything by Bradbury. Well, I think I mentioned one a long time ago that I started one book, but I couldn't finish it because of technical reasons. And I liked it a lot. I like the way he writes, the way he describes things. I also like the theme. I mean, some of the aspects are a bit dated. I mean, you know, the role of they have to have a grandma to cook for them, to do everything. That's kind of it shows that it's from a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I like, especially I like one issue that is, I mean, I like it about science fiction, but that many times it touches really on philosophical and human things, not on technology things. I mean, the issue of the feeling of loss that the Agatha, the little girl, has, and how to mend the family after it's broken. I think that was quite interesting.
Nice, thanks. Let's see who's next on my list. Andrea, do you want to tell us what you got?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure if I like this story. Like my expectations were really high because I have read things by Ray Bradbury before, and I like everything that I have read. But this story, I'm not sure. I mean, I think he could do so much more with this topic. Like, I don't know if I wasn't really moved with the relationship between the grandmother and the grandchildren, so it felt like a bit meh. It's okay, but no. I like the part where the grandmother like try to defend like that not all the machines and the robots are evil. I think that was funny. But the ending again, it was a bit disappointing for me. So.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Let's see, Raquel, do you want to tell us what you got?
Yes, never before had I read anything by Bradbury, and I quite like it. Maybe because I like this type of themes, like type of issues of human-like robots, and above all, what I like the most is the threshold between humans and robots, and the capacity or the ability that we can have to show sympathy or emotions to robots. I really like this theme. It's very, very appealing for me. Whenever I read a book dealing with this theme, I always have the preconceived idea that it's not gonna have a happy ending. Nevertheless, this one is totally the opposite.
Yeah.
And as a whole, I quite like it. I liked it very much.
Great, thanks. Jessica, do you want to tell us what you got?
Yeah, well, me and Ray Bradbury don't get along very well. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. The same as I always think of his writing. I think I liked it more after reading the poem. I don't know. It put some context into some meaning into the story, and especially the title. You know, I couldn't quite figure out why the title. And I think actually the most interesting part could have been when they were in the factory. You know, how to create this model. You know, the sounds, I don't know that, and that he didn't go deeply into that because that wasn't the point. And then again, humanized robots. One always goes to Asimov, who does it much better for my taste.
Okay, thanks. Colleen, do you want to tell us what you thought?
Yeah, I like the story. It was different than I thought it would be. I thought it was interesting, his use of, the robots in connection with the emotions and everything and dealing with death. I also thought I always find it interesting to read these stories that were written a while ago. And then today, I think somewhere in Asia, they actually have not actually a human robot like that, but something that, like some kind of robotic thing that gives older people company. So it was interesting to see, kind of how these ideas play out and the thoughts back then. And so, but yeah, I liked it. I thought it was interesting, the use of robots, which you think like don't have emotions at all, dealing with emotions that the children have, their loss and death. So.
Thanks. Nati, do you want to tell us what you got?
Well, I only read some part of the story, but I liked it, and it reminded me of the film played by Nicole Kidman, where everybody was perfect. I don't remember the name of the film, though. Do you know what I mean? Do you know that?
The Stepford Wives, maybe.
Yes. That's correct. So, well, it reminded me of that. And well, I think in the future we're going to have, not exactly as this, but yes, there are going to be a lot of old people, yes, and we're going to need some help. And I think they are working on that, on creating robots, not with so much perfection, yes. But, and I don't know, I didn't read the end of the story.
Thank you. Adrian, what did you think?
Well, I liked it. I think that the main story, which is the relationship between Agatha and the grandma, the robot grandma, the drama there, the emotions that flow, and the internal trauma or problem that Agatha has to trust and love an adult again, is very well detailed and developed through the plot. Regarding the robot itself, it's quite an utopia, having robots so far advanced with such an intelligence that they can not only mimic human behavior and mimic human personality, but also surpass it, be better than humans regarding this human side of things. Like, we are talking about how we are creating and developing robots that are going to help humans, maybe help kids, maybe help old people, maybe help every single human person. But that in a physical, material level, that can happen. It's actually happening. We have machines and robots that help us do stuff. But to help in an emotional, psychological way, that's like, it's very far away from us. Like maybe in 550 years, 100 years, we will have machines and robots that can help us clean the house perfectly, do our jobs, and whatever. But to have the mind of a human, well, that will take more time, I think.
Thanks. I'm a Ray Bradbury fan. I don't know if I read this story before. It had been a long time. So I did enjoy it, but I think, it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. I was thinking like Raquel that like, okay, something's going to go wrong. You always have this technology always goes wrong. But it was, it subverted my expectations there. So I found it a little off-putting, but thinking about it, I think it's nice that it actually had kind of a happy ending and that the robot didn't, turn evil and kill them or something. It was a nice story about grief and kids grieving and how they take the loss of a parent. So it's not my favorite story, I don't think, by him, but overall I enjoyed it. So now we can just open up the floor if anybody has anything specific they want to talk about or ask.
No, I just saw, oh fuck, my camera is failing a lot.
Well, maybe don't do that. Probably that's gonna help.
Let's see if it stays like this. Like just hit it. It always helps.
Yeah.
These
Well-
machines really.
Yeah, I was like, no, finally the technology goes wrong.
Violence is always the solution with technology.
Yeah, I had to hit the phone several times until it worked. Well, what I was going to say is that this story, for what I saw, was first a script for the Twilight Zone, this TV show that you had in the States.
The Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Zone. Yeah. And later it was a story. And it's also, as Jessica mentioned, a poem by Walt Whitman that has the same name. And there's a song that is called "I Sing the Electric Body," the Body Electric, and that somehow they are all related.
I didn't know that it was a Twilight Zone episode. I
When
know he
was
wrote for the show. But
When was the story written? Do you know?
the 50s, mid 50s, in 1950s, I think. So yeah, which you can tell. So what Carlos was saying, like this idea that they have to have a woman to like take care of the kids,
Yeah.
and which I mean I understand. It's like you need somebody else like is helpful. Being a single parent suddenly is very difficult, but it doesn't have to be a grandmother, aunt, or whatever.
Yeah, actually, I was shocked because I was imagining all this technology, and at one point he said like they have like this factory full of like women ready to take care of people, and I was
Yeah.
if you have the ability to create robots, why only like grandmothers? It's like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And there was something that they say, I don't remember exactly the words, but they take care of children or who have lost their parents or disabled people, but not orphans. And I don't know why.
They don't have the
Do
money
you remember that?
to pay for it, I guess. I mean, it was definitely a business. It was not a charity. So that's all I can think.
I saw it strange.
Yeah.
Kind of funny that she's purchased as a grandma, but her most of the things she does as a servant, almost, cooking and nanny and things like that. She also does lots of things for the emotional part, but she does a lot of let's say work.
Yeah.
So that's what a grandma would do in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now too. I mean, there's a lot of grandparents that are raising their grandchildren because parents have to work.
Yeah.
So it's also true to life.
It's a Roomba 2050.
For a more developed Roomba, because the way the grandmother could like say philosophical questions, like I don't know, talk about evil and good, about love. That was a bit unrealistic, but
Yes, it's very philosophical for a robot. But still, I mean, what Adrian was saying about the technology not being able to get there. I mean, I think the artificial intelligence is going to go a long way, much more than we think. Definitely, we're very far away from that. But I mean, at the end, I mean, we have a very complex brain that goes through life. But I mean, in a few decades, they will be able to have a machine that is as complex as the brain, and they will be able to simulate not one, but a million lives. And they will be able to develop behaviors that maybe it's not the same as ours, but there's a lot of variety in human behavior. So they will be just a person with a behavior, and we will not be able to tell if it's a person or it's a weird person or it's a robot.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. She almost had at one point, she almost had a recipe for what she was doing. Like she said, well, if everybody needs to listen, then I listen to everybody. If everybody needs to do this, if you need love, I give you this. If you need that, I give you that. And it was almost like, I don't know, like she had some kind of formula for how she reacted. Yeah. Yeah, I also don't know that we're that far away from it. I think what technology can do, it cannot be a human, but you could possibly program it quite well. Not now, but yeah, in the future.
I understood this part where she explains what she does for each of the children, not as a way of showing her algorithms or how she's programmed, but as a way to explain to the kids that she's going to work for their happiness, that she's going to give them what they need. Like I see that you need this, then I give you this thing that you need. I see that you lack this, so I'm going to give you this thing. But I guess that to have that level of complexity in her brain, she has to have something that are not our usual understanding on how our very rudimentary and very simple artificial intelligence works today.
I also thought it was interesting that at the end, it seemed almost like she was basically made up of them, like their memories and who they were. And even when he took the photo and he looked at them, she was like each one of them. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the way they had put her together, because she cooked like the meal that he knew from 20 years ago, you know, and at the same time, it's like she took from their memories, but then at the same time added something else.
Yeah, because she learns, and that's not much difference of how we humans learn. Like we imitate a lot when we are kids. Yeah, we trial and error too, but we also imitate from our friends and our parents and our significant people around, and we create like a collage of everything that we see, of everything that we learn, that builds our personality. And I think that's what the grandma is doing too, learning, and because she has an infinite memory, the capacity to remember everything, then she can know everything that happened before and store it.
Yeah, and there's, well, I don't know how Ray Bradbury would have been thinking about it in the 50s, but the artificial intelligence now that we have, also a lot of it learns, like it this in more or less the same way we do, what you were describing, like through interacting with different people and like listening to how they talk or how they respond and trying to imitate that, and like learning new information on its own. So I could see where we could get somewhere where maybe not as advanced as this story, but in 100, 200 years, something that's more or less a facsimile of a person that could serve in this capacity, more or less like in this story. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. The thing that some of you were talking about, that they are now researching about robots that can take care of people. I think that's gonna be a reality pretty soon. But I feel like we have a lot to debate as well as to, like, I don't know, ethical questions as well, because there's not gonna be grandmothers like in the story. Like, I don't think that people stop there, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting that he made the story very positive. And yeah, I think in a real situation, there could be situations where grandma really goes wrong, you know, like she does some. So yeah, I mean, it was almost like he wanted, I mean, he even said in the story, he wanted to show the positive side of robots and how they could be. And, you know, the whole founder of the organization wanted to show the positivity of the robots. But yeah, I think putting it into practice, I mean, if she is actually learning from experience, then how would she actually differentiate between good actions and bad actions, you know? Because
yeah, I think many people would feel uncomfortable leaving things that affect the human life on a machine's hands. But even for human beings, it's difficult to make some decisions. There's quite a few of dilemmas in ethics about the what to do. I don't know if you heard about the fat man dilemma. See, there's one where they say like there's a train, they're gonna go. There's like a car with a few kids and on a railroad track. There's a train going that way, and you're on top of a bridge. on the track, and if you can throw something heavy on the tracks, the train will stop and it will not kill the kids. And luckily enough, there's a fat man right next to you.
It's like a variation on the trolley problem.
Exactly, yeah.
That's like the self-driving cars, the whole, debate around the self-driving cars. Like if you have to kill, one person or another.
Who are you going to kill?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because there's the utilitarian thought of well, you kill one person, save 5, so that's good. But so that makes sense. But then nobody would like to have a friend that will think so that way, or unless you don't go anywhere near a railroad track with him.
Something that caught my attention is that this robot is there to provide emotional support, and she's doing it very well, and is coping with each different needs that the children have. But then again, it doesn't want you to forget that she is actually a machine. There's certain details like the string of the kite that comes out of her finger, and then he mentions she gives them water out of her finger as well. That's if you're trying to focus on a robot being useful for emotional interaction, this sort of underlining that water comes out of a finger is a bit strange.
Yeah, I think that goes in the line of making her better than a human, like with more abilities to help the children, to help the family in many different ways. Not only playing with the kids with the kite, but also preparing food or giving them stuff. Like it's beyond the human capabilities. The reason I was thinking before that the emotional part, the human brain that she seems to have and even improve a little bit, that is more difficult to achieve, is because the trauma that Agatha has, the emotional problem or issues that she has, is something that, psychology is there, and we have like hints or we have an idea of what could be happening there, but we don't really know how it works. And to teach that to a machine, first we have to understand how our psychology works. And once we know how our brain works, how our traumas, how our deep thoughts are, and how to solve them, then the machine can do it, but not the other way around.
Yeah. Well, actually, the way artificial intelligence works would be a bit different. You would feed it first all the problems, so you have to have a database of all, I don't know, thousands or millions of kids that have had that type of problem or something similar, and then feed all the therapies that have been applied, and then all the results. And with them, it will do a regression, and then it behave like a psychologist, and you wouldn't be able to tell. But for that, you need to be able to parameterize everything and to have the database. You have to feed it the right information. But so it would be very difficult. But for example, if we wanted to have a robot talk like in WhatsApp, like a human being, you just dump all the WhatsApp conversation from a WhatsApp server, and I'm sure it would be able to generate right now one that nobody could tell it was not a person.
There is also another way to do it that they use, that the technology learns by trial and error. So basically like a human, and you feed it points or you take points away, and it learns by trial and error. So there is another way to do it, in which case it would learn a bit more like a human.
Yeah, that's neural networks.
Yeah. Well, not exactly. It's, I don't know if you're familiar. Sorry, I think this is getting very technical, called reinforcement learning.
Sorry, what was that again?
Sorry.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I'll not go into that because
no, but it's actually interesting. Yes. What was the name of the learning technique that you said?
It's called reinforcement learning.
Okay.
So reinforcement, and basically it's a learning technique where the neural network learns by trial and error, like we do. It's much more used in research now because they haven't perfected it, and it needs like a lot of information. But at some point, they've taught it to learn video games. Like it can learn how to play a video game. And basically like the idea is that it learns like we do. So, but it's, I mean, I think it's far from being perfected, you know, right now.
I think it's kind of like maybe like what is used for chess when you have the computer play.
Yeah,
2
it's
billion.
exactly, that's what they used to play chess. Yeah. Because the opponent, you never know, like, you know, there's no way to have the exact answer. So yeah, that's what they use.
And at the end, go ahead.
Go ahead, because I was going to kind of change the topic slightly. So if you want to say something.
You said like, yeah, sometimes at the end, the result of the learning is to change some parameters inside, and it's kind of like a black box. You just know it works, but it's like it's tweaked inside its algorithm. You don't really know what it's doing. It's kind of like a person in a way.
Yeah, you don't know. Exactly.
Yeah, that what I will have to continue with the ECMO before you change the topic. I will have I think that the wrong perspective about teaching the machine to learn as humans do is to stop in teaching her or him how to learn as humans do. Like maybe we can create something much better than our brains. Like we are obsessed with creating human-like machines. For example, what Jessica was saying, that the grandma is not really human-like. She has like extra capabilities. While maybe just letting all the possibilities of robots go widely, they can learn faster, better than us, do everything better than us, and that should be fine. And not trying to replicate human behavior will be maybe better.
I always, to comment on that, I always find it, funny that they design these like humanoid robots, and they're so proud when that robot can like walk up stairs or something like this, because that's really hard to design. But it's like, why do you design it? Like if you need a robot to go upstairs, like surely there are more efficient designs than like a humanoid design. Like it makes no sense to make it look like a human, because our bodies are very inefficient in general, and like we're not very well designed. We're not designed. So if you need a robot to do a specific task, like I don't get the obsession with making robots look like humanoid, because usually it's just a pain in the ass. Like you said, like, oh, it took us 20 years to get this robot to step over a box. Like, okay, that's interesting, but you needed the robot to step over a box. You probably could have come up with a better design. But I don't know. I think part of it is like the influence of like science fiction. Like that's how we imagine it. So that's how we're gonna do it. Like, no, this is what happens in the future. Robots look like humans. So.
Well, I think part of it is that they expect to operate them in environments that are designed for human beings. So I mean, they have to have something that is similar in the sense that it's gonna. I mean, the stairs are that don't come from nature. We made them because they're good for us. So in that sense, they do something that is able to work on our environment. If there's a fire, they won't have the robot going in a building, something like that. But for other tasks, the robots don't look at all like the robots in a car factory don't look at all like humans. So it depends on the use.
Yeah, it depends on the use. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine a use where it has to look like a human, other than like these sort of companionship.
I was going to say there was
But I don't know about that, because also there's studies that show that we don't like when robots look like humans, that it freaks us out. Yeah. Like we prefer R2-D2 to like C-3PO.
Yeah. I think grandma, like that would freak me out.
Yeah. I've read a couple of articles about that. One recently, one long time, they say that when it gets too close, it starts to be creepy and people get scared.
Yeah.
But except for one application, is a sex robots. For that, they want to be as close as possible. And there is a big industry on that coming up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were mentioned before, like possible use of the robots, I was thinking on two very real ones that came to my mind. One was like sexual toys. Yes, that is already happening. There's an entire industry of dolls and stuff like that already happening. And also war machines, like soldiers, like they are using drones and all kind of technologies to kill human beings or conquer land or whatever. So those will be two appliances that glasses, 2 applications that will be there for this kind of thing.
And servants, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we already are starting to have.
Yeah.
Supposedly in Japan there is a big development of robots for let's say domestic service, because the best machine right now is a human being doing it, and they don't like the foreigners that they have. They don't like people from different cultures there, and so they are really pushing to have robots so they don't have to have people to take care of their elders.
Yeah, they already have some robot waiters. I think like there's some restaurants that your waiters robot, and also some room service, like some hotels.
And
robots that deliver room service.
There was a ceremony in South Korea or something. They couldn't go and take the certificates or diplomas. Do you remember this? And they were robots with like a screen with a little computer here showing the face of the person. This was real. It was on TV.
Yeah, I think there is one.
Because they couldn't go to the place to have their certificate or
no, that was
there
in
were
Japan.
robots there.
That was in Japan, yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, I read it.
Wait, there's a robot, a waiter robot in La Vaguada.
Yeah.
Which I read about, and I've seen this robot, and it's shit, basically. I mean,
pretty basic.
It's very simple.
In 100 years or 200.
And it's very creepy. I don't know about the La Pagoda one, but I've been like a few months ago in an Asian restaurant near my job, near Barajas, where a robot brings you the food and talks to you, and it's quite creepy. It tells you stuff like...
It's trying to be too human. Like, it doesn't need to talk to you. Yeah. Like, it's a robot. Like,
but even,
just give you a phone.
Yeah, like, if you make it talk with functional sentences, like on my first shelf, you have your fish, and here you have your, okay, whatever. But the robot comes with your food and tells you, here, my love, this is for you. And it's just creepy. And with this Japanese thing of my love or dear, this is, like, no, just bring me my food.
But maybe we just need to get used to, because there are a lot of people who text to Siri, right? And
yes, you get used to it. Yes, at first it was like a stranger talking to the mobile phone, but now.
Yeah. And now you have full conversations with Siri, and Siri is actually programmed to give you an answer to even your stupid questions.
And it can tell you jokes, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Siri, I haven't tried it recently, but we have Google Homes at home, and the best thing it can do is tell jokes, maybe some stories or something like that. But real conversations, they are not quite there yet.
Well, that happens with many humans too, I have to say.
Yes.
True.
But they're actually trying to make them more human, like telling jokes. That's not what you say. That's not the robot thing necessarily.
So in that sense, maybe the robots are very human. They look like some humans, not like others. We just are putting the setting very high goals for them. We should be more modest.
True.
In fact, over the last years, there have been many people in technology field that are very concerned about where artificial intelligence is going to get, and they're calling for it to be really regulated before it gets out of hand. So probably there's many things that are not in the public realm yet that are making them worry.
Yeah, I mean, one possible feature that comes to my mind is what's this movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Terminator. Yeah. I mean, do you have Skynet like being aware of itself and killing all humans? That kind of future. Like if artificial intelligence gets too smart, it will kill all human viruses in the world.
I think at the moment,
I saw you were gonna say Her.
If the virus doesn't kill us.
But the movie Her, I think, is more like appropriate.
That also, yeah.
I think at the moment the main concern would be that it could like be scamming people if it's too realistic, and you don't know if you're talking to a human or an AI, and it has a lot of potential to like steal people's information and like stuff like that.
And also, it's kind of interesting that the way robots behave and or like intelligent machines depends really in the way the data that they are fed. I mean, I read about some algorithms that were trained using previous decisions by the company, for example, for hiring people. So they took the extracted patterns from the past hiring people for decades, and then they use it to train it to choose the candidates for the company. And of course, they reproduce the same sexist and racist patterns that they had over the last decade. So, so you had to be careful that you feed them the right learning information.
Yeah, which it links with what we were saying before, which is that if you teach the machine to behave like a human, it will have the limitations and errors of a human.
Yeah, but what else could you do? Because we're human. Like we're limited by our own species.
Yeah, I didn't know
what we know.
I didn't know of the different ways to learn that we're talking about before. Like I thought that mostly it was, what Carlos was explaining, which is what Google did with their translator a few years ago. Like the translator was really bad, even for main languages like French and English, the translation's quality was awful. And suddenly they changed the algorithms a few days ago to learn in a different way from the input of the millions of users. And now there's like the difference between Google Translator and a real translator is like 70% or something. It's very good, but it can do.
It has improved a lot.
Yeah, but it was like overnight. Like one day it sucked, and the next day it was awesome.
They're collecting a lot of data because I think I even helped them. Like they were asking people to help, like reviewing like translations and being like, oh, is this good? This isn't good. I would say it like this instead. So yeah, they were gathering a lot of like information.
Yeah, you have to feed it the right input, and you have to have somebody looking at the output and checking that it's correct. Exactly. But once they have that, it's cooking. In fact, one possibility is that in the future you can have a robot judges. They can look at the laws, look at the facts, look at the jurisprudence and so on, and it will emit the sentence, and then you have maybe a human judge to review it to make sure it doesn't do anything crazy, and then go ahead.
It would be very scary, in my opinion.
I was about to say, I think it would be very scary too. I think sometimes there's also a component of maybe compassion that a judge should have, depending on the situation, or not compassion.
Well,
I don't know. I find a human judge scary too, because they're so, you don't know what they're thinking, like, are they not going to like you because your hair is wrong, or because you don't cry enough, or they're subject to all their human.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in fact, if the database that they used took the last 30 years of sentences, it should have taken into account the compassion that was shown in those sentences, plus the racism, sexism, or whatever they say. So, but it is true, having a human judge is no guarantee of having a fully impartial thing.
The thing is, who decides what information to feed this AI? It's
exactly.
And another thing, it depends on the society where you live, because the moral and values, they changes in one society than another. We have one moral and one values that are not the same than, I don't know, in another country, like in Arabic countries, for example. And that
must go.
Okay, thank you for coming. Bye.
Depends on who program and in which country the robot is going to be. It will change the ways say does things, I think, because it's not the same our society than another society in other countries.
Yeah, that brings us to very deep and interesting philosophical debate, which is if there's a universal ethics or values or morals that are inherent to being human. Like, for example, what we think is universal, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it's not. It's just an arbitrary convention of things that we think or we decide as a group, as a society, as a species, that it may be okay. But if different people from the same species were to write that Declaration of Rights, of universal human rights, they will be different. They will decide that doing some stuff that we consider good is bad, or the other way around. And I don't know if there's like something that goes with our DNA, with our biological bodies, that makes or creates an ethical behavior on us, or if it comes from the outside, from our culture, our society, or what.
Well, you know, this grandmother is, she's well designed in that sense, because if she's learning by trial and error, by listening, basically, yeah, by anticipating the needs of the people she's looking after, and she changes with each person. Well, you know, that could be, if that were possible, it might be a solution, because, you know, depending on who the robot is serving, let's say, it will do different things.
Yeah, but
Instead of having one universal robot for everybody, the robot changes. But
yeah, I don't think any robot would have like a real sense of what is good and what is wrong. Like, it completely depends on the instructions that you give them. So.
Yeah, but if the instructions are what the robot senses are the needs in that moment, which is what the grandmother's doing.
Yeah, so it will change from family to family, or change depending on their experience, on what they learn, unless you put very deep in their programming, in their core, in their BIOS or whatever, certain ethical laws. Like, for example, I'm thinking
like
of the
3 rules
laws
of the Asimov.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the 3 robot laws by Asimov.
Those usually don't work out very well either.
Yeah, but I mean, something like that. Like, you don't harm human beings, you do what other human beings told you to do, and you don't harm yourself, for example, no? It's a basic thing. If you could develop that and make a very complex set of specific rules that are going to control and limit what the robot can do, you will have its morals.
Even that would be hard, because what actually is the definition of to harm? Like, you could say, well, yeah, it hurt them in the short term, but it would help them in the long run, in the long term. Like, you could, I don't know, there's ways that you could.
Yeah, it's very hard to define. And that brings us to the Carlos thing that was saying of, yeah, if the robot had to decide to kill 1 or to kill 5, then what is more harm, right? It's harming both things, yeah.
But the decision is not taken by the robot, it's taken by the programmer.
Yeah.
It's true.
There is a Korean show, a Korean drama. It's very cheesy, but it's called like My Hollow Love, and it's about an artificial intelligence. It's so developed and so awesome that it develops the capacity of love humans. So if at the beginning the artificial intelligence has like this basic rule that like basically don't break any laws and protect your humans, and he breaks all the rules because he develops human emotions. So it's very cheesy and very science fiction, but
very Korean, right?
Yeah.
Something that I found interesting in the story, and like about this, we're talking about, can robots have emotions? Can they develop? Because or desires or whatever, because the grandmother at the end, she's like, oh, I can go to this robot heaven place, and you think like, does she want to go there, or is this just like a upsell for the company, which is kind of how I interpreted it, which I liked, because I was like, oh my god, that's the most realistic part of the story. Like, oh, for just small fee you can put grandma in like comfort for the rest of her days. But like also, do you think about it? You're like, well, would the robot also like that? Like, did this robot have its own desires, or was it strictly like a functional piece of technology?
Yeah,
I'm sure it was programmed not to have that type of belief. Because
yeah, they would try.
It should have. I mean, I imagine the company will program it to be always thinking about the benefit of the company, not about itself.
Yeah.
And that implies feelings. Does the robot has their own feelings?
No.
Does
I think.
How can you be so sure?
I think
because she's a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are robots. I mean, what are our feelings are just chemical reactions.
Yeah.
So if you can build in, I mean, they wouldn't in this story. They would choose not to do that as much as possible, but it's chemical and electrical reactions. Like, who's to say that that couldn't be recreated somehow?
Oh, no, recreate, yes. I mean, you can mimic its behavior. Yes, you can. You will be able to produce something that does exactly the same thing as we do, but for a different reason. That's what I don't consider to have the feeling. But yes, it will be at some point indistinguishable. If I was kind of funny that robot heaven you were mentioning, I was just visualizing the robots, in the rocking chairs, doing crochet and exchanging the lives of their families, like a real grandma.
Yeah. Relaxing. I don't know if a robot. If that's a robot's idea of fun, like, oh, good, I get to sit down for a while. But
also, I wanted to comment that it was mentioned before that having a grandma that can pour water from the finger, that is kind of creepy for us, but that's because of us, because we're old people now. But for a kid who in fact is the narrator, that's cool. A grandma that can pour water through the so for us, like kind of creepy and human and whatever, but for the kids, it would be great.
I'm thinking on what Mo said before about us being machines too, which is quite true. Like, we are consciousness, yes, created from matter, but that is what artificial intelligence will be. It will be consciousness created from matter. Now we will have to define consciousness, but as long as it can think based on a physical form, the same as us, like chemical reactions, synaptic connections in the brain, basically muscles and flesh, which can be very easily replicated with a different kind of fabric for the robots. We will have beings that we will have to go way out of our way to not call them alive, because they will be.
And will they have rights?
They should.
we don't even give other humans rights, so I doubt we're gonna give robots rights. I mean, we barely recognize our fellow beings as being conscious. That's only something very, very recent. So I don't know. I think it would be a long time before people would recognize robots.
Yeah, but maybe in the future they would develop a robot law.
Yeah, but also it's kind of an ethical thing. Like, do we have the right to produce a being of such kind and keep it as a slave? I mean, it's like the same way people are concerned about the rights of animals. They will start thinking about the same thing with robots, which will maybe look much more like us than animals.
Yeah, if I had to break down right now the sociological future of robots, I would say that first they will be treated as slaves, and then there will be like some revolution from part of the society of humans saying, no, but they have rights too, that will slowly grow until their rights are recognized much later in the future.
I mean, then there's the
Blade Runner is a
question
good example. Sorry. Go ahead.
And I was saying, then there's the question of, if they're so human, can they die? And if they don't die, they would actually outlive any of us. So almost, then you would ask, would they be more powerful than us? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a story by Isaac Asimov called The Bicentenarial Man, which is about this, precisely what you have said. It's a robot that serves a family for a long time, generation after generation. He's more human than most humans, but the authorities, the institutions, the human institutions, don't allow him to be declared human, because the family that he's living with wants to let them all the fortune, like the material possessions they have, but legally he can get them and stuff. And at the end, the courts, the Jews, what they decide is that he can't be human because he can't die. And that's an essential part of being human, or even alive, even an animal. So what he decides is to set a deadline, literally a deadline for himself, like in X years that I can remember, I will die, and set something in his brain to die in X years. So they name him a human, and therefore the title of the story, The Bicentenarial Man, which is a man that has lived for 200 years. But yeah, I think it's like, to be human, you have to have all the characteristics of a human.
Yeah, but I don't think that's necessarily what makes us human. Like, human being is always trying to develop immortality, and we still be humans.
I would say it is
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would say it actually is a fundamental part of us, because it's always there and it always weighs on us that you can die and you will die. So especially as you get older, I mean, I think knowing that you will die, it causes us to behave differently than if we didn't think we could ever die. I mean, I don't know, because none of us can live forever, but
that we know of.
Well, yes, I mean, if you think about the death penalty or simple going to jail, you know, it affects us because it takes away part of our life. If we were immortal, well, okay, so I spent 20 years in jail, I'll get out in the end. You know, there's a lot of things that matter a lot because we die, because time runs out.
I was going to say that robots will be able to die by I mean, if they get into an accident, they can die, but it's not a certainty. But I think maybe we might be able to, let's say, re-engineer our chemistry in our bodies so we don't die before we can make such a realistic robots.
Yeah, it's what Andrea was saying. Like, yeah, we are constantly trying to expand and extend our lives. If we were able to be immortals, then what defines being human will be also being immortal. Yeah, I mean, that's what technology has, and science in applied to the future, is that it changes what we are, the way we live, etc. Like, for example, modern medicine has changed a lot what we are, what we can do, and nowadays we are talking about prostheses and artificial limbs, and yeah, this is changing what we are.
I think any robots built in our current society are going to be built with an end date in mind anyway, because you have to buy a new one next year. So there's not going to be any robots that are built to last 200 years.
That's true, because the companies do make money. So, you know, if you
Yeah.
die within 3 years, then you have to buy a new model.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we're not going to have this problem anytime soon.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, we have the problem of machines and appliances dying on us because of obsolescence or program obsolescence or whatever, or just because of the low quality, because they make everything very cheap.
Also, I also want to mention, on the study was kind of interesting that they talks about the grandma at the helping the family, but really the father kind of just buys it and disappears.
Yeah, that was
It's
very
really
50s as well, right?
But it's like from the kid's perspective, or maybe just the story only shows the interaction with the grandma, which is the coolest part for the kids. But really, it's kind of interesting that the father just, I guess he just is around the house and that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting from the kids' perspective. It's like their life is very much more centered around the grandmother and their siblings. And the father is just like, yeah, comes home, has dinner.
Which I have to say, the grandmother is mother in many aspects.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's more grandmother in the sense that it doesn't interact so much with the father, but in everything else it behaves a lot like a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even the way she moves, like she can run with them, she can, things that, I mean, a grandmother would normally not be able to do, or not be able to do so well, you know?
And I don't imagine her like being like actually an old lady. Maybe I didn't understand the description because it was so intricate, but I couldn't figure out how she would look.
Yeah.
Well, she changes for a start. She changes constantly. So she comes to reflect what you want, basically, what you feel most comfortable with, somehow.
Yeah, she looks like each of the kids, kind of somehow. She has similar features.
Yeah, I understood that as if she were related to them, so her face changed a little bit to match each of the kids.
That would be creepy.
Yeah. Indeed. Actually,
like everything about her is creepy.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking that as a governess, like it's normal that she spends a lot of time with the kids and the story focus on her because the father is whatever he's doing, working or out of the house or I don't know. But she's the one taking care of the kids, teaching them, yeah, like a governess. And this remind me of Mary Poppins, which also can do awesome stuff and be great with the kids and stuff. But it's also like weird. She has like magic and stuff. It's much like the grandmother.
Yeah, I definitely thought about Mary Poppins when reading the story. She comes and changes, like gives the family what they need, what they're missing. In Mary Poppins, in the movie, she focuses more on the father. In the book, she's just kind of a bitch, to be honest. But it's just very harsh and like weird. But yeah,
Really? I haven't read the book.
It's quite different than the film. The film is very Disney-ified.
Mary Poppins book.
Does Mary Poppins in the book work for modest fee as well, or is it? Does she come free?
I can't remember. I read it when I was like a kid, so I don't really recall too many of the details.
I guess this idea of someone taking care of our kids was much common in the past than now. Like we send our kids to a school to be educated in group from teachers, but it's not usual that we have people at home teaching our kids or taking care of them. Well, not so much at least, I guess.
Well, somebody is. I mean, they don't just come home and take care of themselves from school and take care of themselves. But yeah, I think it's becoming more common now, kind of like we said at the beginning. In the 50s, when it was, the mom would stay at home and take care of the kids. But I think it's becoming more common now that both of the parents have to work, that they can't really afford to stop. So it's becoming much more common for grandparents or somebody else to be taking care of the kids.
Yeah, I mean, we use the schools as parkings for the kids. We let them there all day while we can be productive and make money. And that's all we can do with the kids. Other than that, we need family and friends to take care of them if we are working. Like my sister had 2 kids, and with the first one, what she was saying is that we are lacking tribe. Like in tribes and clans, the entire tribe or the clan will take care of the kids. Like for doing the stuff, you could send the kids with these people, and then these other people would take care of them, like a big family, like an expanded family. Nowadays, if you don't have the grandparents or friends to take care of them or some family, you are either you have a lot of money or you can't do anything because it's impossible.
Yeah.
No, there are extracurricular activities. I work in that. Actually, there are children that spend the whole day at the school. They have breakfast club, and it starts at 8. And after that, when the school finish, they have English or they have sports. And some of them, they finish at 6 o'clock. And some of them, their parents are not the ones that are picking them up, are the nannies or the grandparents. Yeah. And actually, I'm in a school that is the school with people with not rich, but almost rich. Most of them, they have nannies, and there are nannies from Philippines, these kind of things. Yeah, it's still, it's not like in the 50s, but there's still a lot of people like that.
Yeah, it's similar at the school I work at. Like, there's some kids that are there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, but that's because their parents have the money to do that. And that they're working. Well, some of them just don't want to take care of their kids, don't want to see their kids during the day. So,
but in other countries, it's almost more common for women to stay at home, I think.
I don't know anymore. I mean, I guess, I don't know, it depends on the country, but I think it's pretty hard for, almost impossible to be a one-income households.
Well, I mean, by what I've read, at least in Germany, Switzerland, so on. I think in Switzerland, for example, they having somebody take care of the kids, or it's like 2,000 euros a month or something like that. So they say, well, I'd rather stay home or something like that. But it's supposed to be quite common, more than in Spain at least.
There are households now where one of the salaries goes almost directly to the person taking care of your kids. Like both parents have to work, but then they spend half of their income on someone to take care. Like I had a coworker at the previous company that she was doing like 1,200 euros per month, and she was paying the person taking care of her kids like 1,100 or something like that. So the paycheck was directly to her. So people at the office will tell her, like, why do you come to work? Just to stay at home and take care of the kids. And she was like, no, I want to work. I want to have my career. I want to have like all the benefits for being working, like, for example, unemployment and stuff. And also, I don't want to stay at home with the kids. But then, yeah, we have come to a situation where either you have the money to pay someone or you have to stay at home.
Yeah, I think it'd be better if we somehow manage to integrate it better with work, because I can see her point of view. Like, I wouldn't want to stay home. I mean, there's nothing glamorous. It's housework all day long, every day. I think at some point it's like, wow. But if we could somehow, if we could somehow manage to better integrate both so that people could work and, I don't know, somehow have daycare centers at work or something, then it would be easier for parents. But
yeah, and also as a woman, because it's usually the woman who's the one who's expected to stay home, is that exactly what she's saying. Like, okay, if I take 2 years off work, I'm not going to have a job when I go back to work. And a lot of women are deciding not to do that and not to have kids because of that, because they don't want to be dependent on somebody else for money, and because they're going to have to work in the future. And if you have a gap on your resume of 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, you're not very hireable, especially at the age that people have kids now. If you're in your late 30s, it's going to be very hard to find a job after that, after taking a long time out of the workforce. Need robots to take care of the kids.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that even if it was the other way around than the traditional way of women stay at home and men go to work, even if some couples decided like, no, the man stays at home with the kids, even then, could they survive with only one salary? Because in many situations, that's not realistic. Either you have real estate that is your property, or just by paying rent and other expenses, you need at least 2 salaries.
Yeah, but like you said, sometimes that one of the salaries is just going towards childcare. So like in theory, that person could quit, but then in the future, you're not going to have that income either, because it will be hard for them to recuperate the lost time from work. So,
and I think as the timetables, they don't help to have this work-life balance, because especially in Spain, because in a lot of office you have like 2 hours like for lunch break, and you spend the whole day working basically at the office. That it doesn't help you to raise your children, because you leave the house at, I don't know, 8, 7, and you arrive home at 8, 9. Yeah, you spend tons of hours working.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
Yeah, Spain is not particularly good at the life-work balance in comparison to other European countries.
No, we are obsessed with fixed schedules where you have to be there at 8 o'clock. And if you arrive at 8 and 2 minutes, you are late. And if you leave later, like 5 minutes sooner than you should, that's suddenly a problem. Not suddenly, it has been always been a problem. We should move toward more flexible schedules to make this balance possible. Not only because of the kids, like at some point, even if you don't have kids, you need to have a life, to have some entertainment, some time to relax, some time to do your hobbies, to have fun or whatever. But with what Eloisa was saying, these schedules that are complete labor day, and you have 2 hours for lunch, and you arrive at home. I mean, if it's close, if your commute is very short, perfect. But if you take 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, I know people that took 2 hours per trip. Every day, that's, you arrive at home at 9 and leave at 7. You don't have a life, you just work.
Well, hopefully with the new situation we're going to have, they're trying to get flexible working hours, so that not everybody comes in at once. So maybe we will progress.
Hopefully.
I think that's a kind of wishful thinking. I think the Spanish management culture is to have the whole herd, the cattle, all in this one place where you can see it, and you don't want one going here and there. They say it's difficult to manage. You want to be able to say, "Hey, you come here, work for me." No, that's if I think in 1 year we'll be back again in the same spot.
They were telling me the story of Indra. Do you know Indra, the
Very
programming
much. I work
company?
with them. Yes.
You work with them. Okay. It seems for what my friends that are informaticos, like how to sell, like programmers or whatever, like they work with computers, tell me it's a very traditional, very hierarchized company, with where we were saying like the Spanish typical style where you don't have any flexibility at all. But they were growing a lot in the past years, and they are growing so much that they didn't have enough space like for everybody in the offices, and they started this politic of hot seats, like where you are like moving and rotating, and the same spot is used by several people, just not on the same day. So that gives some flexibility, not because it's good for the worker, of course, but because it's good for the company. It's cheaper for them to not have thousands of square meters of offices.
Yes, but I think in general in Spanish corporate culture, if it's good for the employee, it's immediately implied that it's bad for the company.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you could use to negotiate some other labor conditions for somewhere else. Yes, Indra is not a let's say, dynamic company that treats well its employees. Not known for that.
No, it's not famous for that. No. But there are companies that maybe, I don't know, multinational companies, globalized companies, and even Spanish companies that are changing.
Hopefully, there are some.
Yeah.
I have to say, my company they let us work from home 2 or 3 days a week. You can come in, you can have you don't have to come in at a certain hour. They'll work with you on your schedule. So they're not perfect, but they're I mean, compared to what you're describing, they're doing quite well. They're a smaller company, but I think some are.
Are they looking for people?
We're always hiring now.
Well, give me your email. I will talk a bit on the side.
Yeah, hopefully this pandemic thing will teach the companies that working from home remotely is perfectly possible and it doesn't affect productivity or something.
Well, I think, I mean, in my company, we've implemented remote working a few years ago, but there was a lot of resistance from the management. And even, in fact, just a few months ago, it was reduced the amount of remote working that we could do right before the pandemic. Now, everybody's doing it. The whole company is working remotely, and it's okay. But we know that as soon as this is over, we'll go back to the previous plan.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Owing to this pandemic, companies have had to rethink and reassess the way of working. And it's not only good for the companies, it's even good for the environment. I mean, people commuting, if this goes to an end, it will be so good for the quality of the air in Madrid, for example. And we need to think about that. Now that all this has happened, we need to think what we want to do in the near future.
I mean, Adrian might be able to say, but I think it's good for society in general, in so many aspects, for a healthy society.
I mean, environmentally, of course, sure, yeah, like definitely. But socially, I don't know. I miss my coworkers and being there with them in the office. The thing is that as everything, flexibility. Like, yeah, you go some days to work, some other days you don't. You can organize yourself. Like today, if you are sleepy or you feel lazy, then you go later and do your job a little bit later too, or whatever. You know, like to balance your life as a human being with other stuff, but still being able to go to an office and socialize.
Well, I mean, I don't think they will ever forbid that.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to be in the office at least some part of the time because to build up relationships and sometimes, you know, it's much easier to communicate face to face. Some things you can do over Skype or whatever, but sometimes it really complicates things. So
oh yeah, there's many like corridor conversations and coffee machine things that don't happen remotely. Yes.
Yeah, so much information is transmitted there in the corridors and having a coffee and in informal talks that bring up important topics that otherwise wouldn't have been addressed. But anyways, what is so in the pandemic is that even without that, we can work remotely, and we have the technology now that we didn't have 10 years ago of video conference and phones and calls and chats and emails and presentations and PowerPoints and whatever that helps a lot to keep the work flowing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I mean I've been in an environment where we tried to use video conferencing for quite a few years, and the phrase they always said it's easier getting to Mars than to get a video conference working where everybody can participate. and now the software is working quite well and things are working much smoother. But I mean, talking just a few years, we had the equipment that was very expensive, like the guy and the informatics department said it was like the Ferrari of the systems, and it was never possible to get a decent thing working at the first time. You always had to spend half an hour for then only some people be able to participate. And now it's much better. So definitely what Adrian said is right. The tools are now here to be able to do it.
Yeah, like for example, these discussions that we have, like with a very low budget, we have an awesome video meeting that works flawlessly. And this wasn't possible not so long ago.
But I mean, there's lots of work that is done just typing in the computer, answering emails, and things that can be done easily at home or at the beach. Doesn't matter.
Although if I'm at the beach, I don't want to be working.
Which from a management point of view, that's actually an issue. Like if you're at home, not maybe at home, but like, like if you could go to the beach, you're not going to be working even if you have work to do, I guess, right? Like the productivity will go down. I guess that's what they think from a company point of view.
Well, the thing is that they should be able to measure your productivity. And if you deliver, it doesn't matter. I mean, some people, this is the debate we have for quite a few years here. People say, well, maybe you're going to a yoga class at 11 in the morning. I say, well, so if the person delivers the document in time, what's the problem?
Yeah.
The thing I think is the problem is that means that the boss has to actually work and verify that you're doing your work.
Yeah, I guess that as long as you can work by objectives like goals, if you meet the goals, it doesn't matter when or how to do it. Like if you want to work at 4 a.m. in the morning because you are you like working during the night, then that's perfect.
In fact, my work was quite funny because when we started, we were asked to specify the objectives for the things we were going to do for work on the remote working days. For the other days, we didn't have to justify anything or have any objectives. I could be like surfing the internet at the office. But at work, I had to have objectives that I had to justify. I work in the administration, by the way.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have robots soon to do everything for us.
Yes. Well, so that's one thing that the people talk about in artificial intelligence, and supposedly they should remove a lot of the most boring and repetitive jobs, robots and artificial intelligence, and there's going to be a problem with employment and with free time. Well, free time is not considered a problem, but unemployment is.
No, I guess the free time we will do a lot of art, I guess. We will have a lot of singers and writers and actors and TikTok musicalis makers and YouTubers.
Influencers.
Influencers and painters, people painting and stuff. But the thing about job and income, yes, this guy, what's his face? The one that went in a wheelchair, that was a famous scientist.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking. Yeah, I always think of Richard Dawkins, which is the British atheist, but no, Stephen Hawking.
He's also a British atheist.
True. Right. Okay. So something in my throat. Okay. So the last thing he wrote, do you know Reddit, the website? Reddit. Yeah, where people vote. Anyway, it's a website where there's like news and people post stuff and you comment, and there's something that is called sorry. It's not coronavirus, it's that I'm eating candy and it got in my throat.
Me too.
And they have a section that is called Ask Me Anything. And the famous people go there, or just professionals or people that are specialized on something, and random people from all over the internet ask them questions. So for example, if an actor goes, they ask him, how did you do your movie or whatever? And Stephen Hawking did several Ask Me Anything thingies. And the last question he answered before dying was one of these questions. And it was, what do you think of the problem of machines taking over our jobs, human jobs, and how will affect humankind and our economies? And his answer was, well, it depends on how we redistribute the wealth. Because if the profit that those robots and machines produce are redistributed, like redirected to the entire of the society, that will be fine. But if only a small percentage of people keep the profit that the machines do, then we will have a problem. And his last sentence was, and this last option, like some people hoarding all the wealth that the machines produce, is sadly what seems to be happening nowadays, and our tendency for the future.
I mean, that's what's already happening. Like the people, workers.
I am in shock that the second option is what has happened in all of history. In fact, one of the things that is being discussed is whether those robots should pay taxes on their work.
Bill Gates said that, to make them pay taxes.
But yes, the robots will be made by people who can pay for them, and I'm sure they are not very much into redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, the thing here is that it's perfectly fine if jobs disappear, if there's no jobs for every human living because machines take them. That I don't see a problem with that. The problem is not unemployment. The problem is how to redistribute the profit that not having all those jobs makes.
Well, it's really not only the profit. This is the whole economy needs to be revamped, because it's based on a model that is not going to work anymore. If you have half the people not being able to work because there's no jobs for everybody. Let's talk about the
following on what you were saying before, here's a wild idea. There's no jobs for everybody because machines or robots are doing it. And then you make an universal payment, like universal thingy, this thing that they are talking about. Income, yeah, universal income.
UBI.
That will solve the problem, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It's called a universal basic income.
Yeah,
and that's being proposed, and well, there's lots of studies on that and a lot of discussion over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, no, I say wild because for some people it is. There's this debate that we have is, but then people will be lazy and they won't work and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think there may be actually
it's a pretty current discussion right now in Spain.
Yeah.
I think it might actually be the opposite problem. Like, I'm in agreement with the universal basic income, but if there are a significant number of people without jobs, I think many people need a job to, I don't know, give themselves meaning in life. Like when I think of myself, or it's great for a month or two, but then after that, I don't know, how would I feel? You know, not having a goal every day. You know, I don't know.
That's part of the restructuring of society too, because right now we've been raised in this society that's been built up for thousands and thousands of years. That's like, you need to work, you need to be productive, you need to work for the man, you're not even working for yourself, you're basically working for somebody else to keep the economy going or whatever. But if that's not what you have to do, then the kids who are born into that society will grow up with a completely different mindset where I get to set my own goals, where I get to do volunteer work, or I get to do creative work or whatever, and I have the time and space to do that. I mean, that's the utopian future. It's not going to happen, but that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, but the worst part, I think, is the transition. As Colin said, I think your job is part of your identity. What are you? I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. It's really part of your identity. So people who are used to that will be difficult, but I agree with Mo that once you get raised in a new economic system and a new society, it will be easier. But until we get there, there will be a lot of problems on the way.
Yeah,
but I agree. This is not like a natural thing, like biological speaking. So I guess it could be not really easy, but it could be possible to change our way to see our role in society.
I mean, on an individual basis, I mean, there's lots of people that don't work, especially people with lots of money. So, I mean, I think people can adapt.
Yeah, like if you inherit a few real estate, like if you have some flats or some houses and you can rent them, there's landlords living off that without working, and they are, I guess, perfectly happy. They get hobbies. What I was saying before about being much more artists when they don't have a job, I say it seriously. Like, I think that will happen, and I think that this is happening. Like, for example, every time that I've been in Andalusia, in the major cities, you can see a lot of people on the streets, like selling their paintings or doing music, like street shows and dancing and stuff. Yeah, they're living from tourism too, but that could happen in Valencia on the East Coast and many other places. The difference of so many people doing these art things in Andalusia is, I think, because of the higher levels of unemployment. Like, people have more time to do stuff, so they go to the streets and do whatever they can.
Yeah, and I guess, you kind of have a job. I mean, some people have jobs that they love and that is their passion, but I would say there are a good percentage of people that don't, and people who maybe would, if they had the chance to be able to earn money from dancing or to not have to work for money, their love or passion would be dancing, or art or whatever, and so something like that would allow them to actually do those things.
Yeah, in fact, I read an article recently about the universal basic income, and it was reviewing all the different experiments that have been taking place over the last few years. But it mentioned that one that was not experiment, but it was very useful. It was retirement. That is a semi-universal, because it's age-based income, and it looked at what people did. And some people don't adapt to retirement, and other people are so happy and they start doing all kinds of things. So it depends. And also, I mentioned before that the job is part of your identity for some people. people who clean butts in the hospital, I don't think they think it's their vocation or anything like that. You know, it really some people have really shitty jobs, and for them it would be really great to have this option.
No, and even if you are doing a job that you love and that you like, if what we were saying before, if there's no flexibility and you have to wake up early, very every morning with the alarm clock going off and having to rush to work in a traffic jam and then spend all day there and then come home just to sleep to start the next day, even if you like your job, it's going to be a horrible human experience. But if you can do that flexibility, even a job that is bad or that is hard, if you do it, say, like a few hours for 3 or 4 days per week, then that will be perfectly easily doable.
Adrian, what you describe as the horrible human experience is what we have in 90% of the population.
I know. Sadly, I know. But still, I think that have been some advances in the past towards giving us some freedom to enjoy our lives. Like, there's some regulations. Otherwise, we will be working like, say, 60, 80 hours per week or God knows.
At a glacial pace, but yes.
The first law that was in Spain protecting the workers was in like, I can't remember if it was 1806 or 1608. And it was some random king of the moment that said, okay, this is not good. At least all the factories, it must be 1806, all the factories in Spain must have at least a chair, one chair, so the workers can sit down, because the poor people are 16 hours straight standing up. So, yeah,
one chair for the entire factory.
Yeah, they could rotate to sit. I guess that there was even more some opposition at the time, like, no, because this is an increased cost for the entrepreneurs or the producers or whatever.
People have fought against everything, including the people who it's protecting, we want to reduce it to a 60-hour work week, and their workers were like, no, that way lies madness. It always happens. It'll always happen.
I think we could reduce ourselves to a 30-hour work week. 25, that would be nice.
In my mind, it's always 24. It will be 6.
24 is nice.
It will be 6 hours, 4 days per week. And that's awesome, because you have a 3 days weekend, and then you only work 6 hours for 4 days. It will be nice.
Yeah, it's perfect. It sounds great.
Let's do that.
I think they've also shown that 6 hours is like much more productive. People are much more productive if they work a 6-hour day versus an 8-hour day. It's like after a certain point, your brain can't handle anymore. So like people actually work more efficiently and more productively if they work less hours. I don't know what the actual number is, but.
And also if they are rested and if they are happy, they are also more productive.
If they're treated well.
And they can have a good life. Yes, there's lots of things that go on the same direction.
I read an article, it actually was a study that they did with control groups and stuff. And the conclusions were that if you pay the people more, they were more intelligent, which is like surprising, because you say a person is as intelligent as he is. It's like you are not more intelligent depending on how much they pay you. Well, it turns out that it changes and it varies depending on your salary. Like people that are being paid more take better decisions than the people that are being paid less. And the experiment was quite simple, making them doing some tasks, and some of them were paid a huge salary and some of them were paid a pittance. And the people being paid more statistically tend to make better decisions than the other ones.
Well, maybe they care more. I don't know if that's intelligence, but like that you're paying, like if I'm working for a company and they're paying me a decent wage and they treat me well, I'm going to take more care with what I do. But if they're paying me the minimum amount they possibly can, it's like, okay, that's where our loyalty is, that I'm going to do. You're paying me the minimum, I'm going to do the minimum. I think that's like a pretty common reaction.
There was a Russian joke about that they said, like when they first going into capitalism, they said the company pretends to pay us and we pretend to work.
this study was with different kind of jobs or with the same kind of job, but with different salaries?
I think it was the same task, the same decisions with different salaries, and they reacted different depending on the salary they were being paid.
Okay.
Okay, I will tell that to my boss to see if they pay me more so I can work better.
Honestly, I don't know. In the jobs that I've been, even when I was being paid a pittance, I always gave 150%. Like I was working after work, and I will invest myself a lot in the tasks that I was doing. But I guess that the same way that when you go up in the hierarchy of a company and start having a more global perspective and taking more responsibilities, you tend to take more responsibility and to do things in a different way than someone that is starting and is just having a very simple mechanical task. I think something like that could happen when you are being paid more or have more benefits or whatever, which is like the entire concept, the entire view of your job change. Like the paradigm in which your tasks are inscribed change, and you do much more or see things from a different perspective, something like that.
Oh, but that happens to some people. Go ahead.
For me, I think the way they treat you kind of is more important than how much they pay you.
Yeah, I'm totally agree.
In my personal experience.
I'm totally agree with you, Andrea. For me, if I'm happy in the situation, if I think that they treat me fairly, I don't mind to do overtime, because I think that there's part of my job, or even doing extra job. But if they treat you very badly, even if they pay you a lot of money, but they treat you very badly, yeah, it's like, okay, I'm going to stay the minimum, and yeah, I'm going to leave because it's my time to go. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the way they treat you is very important, not just how much they pay you.
Yeah, and also have a good relationship with your coworkers, not only with people above you, because you spend lots of time at work.
Yeah,
it's good to have a nice environment.
Yeah, I always say that the difference between the alarm clock going off in the morning and you waking up saying, no, oh my God, I have to go to work. That's horrible. I don't want to. Or that the alarm clock goes off in the morning and you wake up and say, oh, okay, I will go to work a few hours, have some laughs and come back home. The difference is the people that surround you, the team you are working with, the co-workers.
I would say it's more important. You can have a crappy boss, but if you have good colleagues, it's much more endurable, let's say.
Yeah, you can complain about the boss too. That's very helpful.
When the boss is not there, you talk about the boss.
Yeah. That's a very important way of bonding in the workplace.
Part of the tribe.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have one question. It's not related to this. It's related to next Sunday. What's this thing? It's like you choose one fragment from one book and you read it, or how it works?
Yeah, you choose. Well, what Eloisa is talking about is the cata de libros, which is this thing where you record yourself reading a paragraph, or a few paragraphs, like a few minutes of a story you like or a book you like, and we'll make a collage, a video, with all the people reading their favorite passages. And that way we can all listen to the passages of the others. The thing is that for Ciervo Blanco, every year we make an anniversary of the foundation of the club. And what we do is a cata de libros, which is like a book taste where everybody brings, we do it physically, presentially in a place, and we go read out loud the parts that we like. And it's fun because you get to listen a lot of good literature. And we also
make fun because you have to guess the title so people can compete with each other.
Yeah, in this case, we are not doing the contest, which, yeah, actually is the more fun part. But it's also not our anniversary. We're just doing it for because of the quarantine. So yeah, it's about recording yourself reading some piece of literature that you like, and we'll put them all together and upload them to YouTube.
Okay, it's recording. It's not like right now I'm reading the book. It's recording.
Yeah, it's not live.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
A lot of people don't want to be on camera, but everybody will have will be able to listen to people read.
I think I'm gonna get going. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was a very interesting discussion. I don't know how much we talked about the story, but it was an interesting discussion.
Very little, I think.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I don't mind.
Yeah, no, for me it was great.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation, even if it was not completely related to the story, but at least it was based on it. Like, it was a good prompt. The thing is that
inspired by,
yeah. But what I feel is that we tend to repeat a lot of the topics we talk about. Like, we like to talk about this work stuff and working remotely and stuff like that. So we talk about it over and over again. But it's fine. It's good conversation.
I wonder why.
Anyways, okay, so I'm leaving too. It was nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
See you
Have a
next
nice
time.
evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.